In Army interrogation school, they teach you that you need to become a student of the people that you are interrogating. You have to understand what they value, where they come from, what they believe, their value system. Once you can get inside their head that way, once you can understand these people and who they are, you can then formulate a plan to break them. I know this sounds like a strange place to start, but it's relevant. And in today's video, I'm going to show you another aspect of this attack in southern Florida. Because in every investigation, just like we did with the ships, we have to go through the who, the what, the when, the why, the how. And the why here, I think, is a big deal. Why was that particular school targeted? We've seen a lot of talk about it being a Zionist community, but I think there might be something more to it that will tie it into the allegations that I've made, that this kid had been recruited by Hezbollah, or ELN fighters tied to Hezbollah, that have been coming to Florida for a long time. Now, just in case anybody wants to take issue with that, okay, this is not new. It might be new to you, but it's not new here. These guys have been here for a long time. This was just this last December. They picked up this huge ring that was funneling money to Hezbollah. And most of these guys were Spanish by descent. Not from Spain, but they were Latin American. Because most of the people down there are. And that's, Hezbollah has used this to be able to blend in. But back to this story about this policewoman in Colombia. See, South America sees things very differently than we do. The girl here on the right, that's her social media pictures. She had filed, she's a policewoman, a patrolwoman, had filed sexual harassment charges against her superior. And so in response, this is what they did. They decided to post these pictures online of her to show that clearly she couldn't possibly have been sexually harassed because of how she was dressed. I mean, and that's just how they think down there. And they have that in common with Islam. You know, Islam sees women as second-class citizens, that if they dress a certain way, or they act a certain way, or they appear a certain way, that they are inviting some kind of harassment. And you can see that here. This is what makes Islam so different. And here it's a good point, because they're talking about how the left, who's tried to embrace Islam, also has this giant problem. They're hypocritical. Because the Islam, you can go through verse after verse that tells you about how women are property. And, you know, a lot of people don't know what the term rule of thumb means. You know, that was a legal term used that if your wife misbehaved, you could not beat her with a stick any bigger around than your thumb, or it was assault, or some other charge. But as long as it was smaller than your thumb. And you can look that up, that's the absolute truth. And they still stone women down there. Some woman tried to tell me on Facebook the other day that the woman caught in adultery in the Bible, where Jesus said cast the first stone, that it was the man that was, or it was her that was committing adultery, not her that was committing adultery, but the man. And anyway, it's just a lot of twisted, screwed up things are taught in these regions, in South America, Central America, in Islam. Why is that important? Why is that important to this? Well, this woman that high school was named after was one of the most staunch feminists of her day. Big player in the women's suffrage movement. And I know you think that this is all crazy, this is all nuts. I'm like, oh, that can't be. Well, it's just because you're not hearing it in mainstream media of what motivates these people and the things that they target and the symbolism of their targeting. Okay, and there's a lot of other things out there that you're not hearing either. Like, for example, the shooter was actually on his varsity in our rifle team. And here they're trying to do a hit piece on the NRA, but if you read down through here for content, and not just for the emotion-driven part of it, you'll read something interesting. Peter Mahmoud, the retired Army major who supervises the JROTC program at Stoneman Douglas, did not respond to messages left by phone at his home. That's interesting. Another Iranian army major. Anybody remember another Iranian army major? Yeah, I know, and everybody's out there flipping out. Oh, you can't make this connection. Well, fine, don't make the connection. Don't make the connection to Hezbollah, even though it's there and even though it's been proven. Keep your head in the sand. You know, this is what the media wants you to do. They want you to talk about, they want you to blame America. They want you to blame American laws, and they want the pro-gun people, the pro-Second Amendment people to be yelling at the people that are pushing for more gun laws and arguing amongst themselves. When what really happened down here totally gets brushed under the rug, and these people are laughing their ass off about it. I guess it just doesn't matter that it was an Iranian gun teacher that was supervising, teaching this kid how to shoot weapons, or that the kid was dressed in red and black the day before on his Instagram or whatever. Black hat, had his face covered just like ELN terrorists do. That somehow magically was able to, with no training, throw smoke bombs, put on a gas mask, and walk in there with an AR-15 and shoot the place up. With, if anybody's ever shot with a gas mask, it's just not that easy. You know, and this is the mistake that people on the left make. They think that guns are these magical killing machines. You know, that you just magically pick one up and you just pull the trigger and the bullets just magically end up going into people's skulls. They don't. You have to know how to use one of these weapons. I mean, I remember watching a guy that was an absolute marksman using the burst feature on the M16A2 try to get all 3 rounds even on the target, much less on center. And he did, barely. And that's on burst. If you have it on auto, or if you bump stock firing, or you're just pulling the trigger as fast as you can, if you have it's South Florida, and you've got a gas mask on, more than likely the inside of the gas mask is all full of steam. You can't see. You're throwing smoke bombs on top of that, so everything's obscured. And apparently this kid effected kill shots at 3 different locations. And they knew exactly who it was, even though he was wearing a gas mask. Yep. I mean, go ahead and believe what you want. But it shows that there is clearly a connection. Here, they picked a school named after a feminist. The kid was emulating ELN terrorist wear. South Americans have been infiltrating South Florida for I don't know how long. 10 years? 15 years? We've shown that Tariq al-Aissami, the vice president of Venezuela, has issued tens of thousands of fake passports to Hezbollah fighters from Syria that have been coming here for over a decade. They've said they want to effect mass casualty attacks. And they're going to pick places like this Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, staunch feminist. I mean, it is a crazy I mean, it's a hard thing for an American to wrap his head around. How they see women as property. I mean, maybe not here in the South. I mean, because there's a lot of men down here in the South that see women as property too. Another story for another day. And it's a sad thing to watch, because sometimes you just have to walk away and there's not much you can do about it. You know, here's a good one. A man is permitted to take women as sex slaves outside of marriage, and it distinguishes wives from captives. Marry women of your choice, 2 or 3 or 4. The men are a degree above the women. It takes 2 women to come to the mental conclusions of 1 man. And this is all, I mean, this isn't make-believe. This is what Islam believes. This is who they are. And this attack took place at what would have been one of the most offensive things to them. A feminist who stood up and got women equal rights for men. That would have offended the hell out of someone of the Islamic faith. A Hezbollah fighter. And it would have offended a South American as well. A lot of people don't realize that. I mean, 75% of people in Colombia and Venezuela do not accept Darwin at all. They don't accept the theory of evolution. They're creationists. And look, I'm a Christian. Okay, and I think there's a lot of questions that have to be answered that way, and I don't want to turn this into that discussion. But these people, you go down there, it's like walking back in time 250 years. Socially. This way. And the reason I started with this article was because the fact that the woman was even a policewoman is because it's Colombia, and probably of all the countries down there, Colombia is probably the closest to becoming a little bit more open-minded that way. But, of course, she stepped out of line. And in this article, I mean, it shows you, it says down here, according to the medical examiner's office, it performed more than 20,000 rape tests in 2016, but the prosecutor's general's office, however, said that it received only 1,600 reports of sexual harassment. So, there you go. You know, one Medellin, pardon me, I don't know why I said that way. One Medellin local noted that the alleged victim had a slut face, while others accused the media of trying to discredit the validity of the harassment claim, which is exactly what they were trying to do here, because of these pictures from her social media. So they do. They have a very, very low opinion of women down there. You know, and the ties to ELN, the ties to FARC, the ties to Hezbollah in South Florida, you know, we've covered. They're here. You know, and this is just the one that got caught. And I'm sorry, I know you know, and you're right, I don't have any, you know, dead nuts proof, but I think it's odd, damn odd, Army major, Persian descent, Arab descent, Army major, Persian descent. I wish somebody maybe would have violated this guy's rights and looked a little closer into him before he did what he did. But, of course, if you would have done that, people would have probably gone down to the little comment section and called you all sorts of names like they're going to do with mine, but that's fine. I mean, it's still, I think it's still America anyway, where you can still speak thoughtfully and intelligently about your opinion in places like Facebook. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there. It's not something that's pleasant to look into when you see the eyes and you see what happens when kids fall through the cracks and who can grab them up. And these terrorists down here, these gang members, and that's basically what the ELN and the FARC and the AGC and the Arabeños and all these guys are. They're just overblown gangs, very powerful gangs, heavily armed gangs. And they have psychological operators of their own. And they know how to do this. You know, it's just... And like I said, the kid posted about this 6 months ago. Or somebody pretending to be the kid posted about this 6 months ago. Being a professional school shooter. Yet nothing was ever done. Meaning more than likely it wasn't this kid that did it. It was somebody who had taken over his profile, at least one of his Instagram profiles, and was grooming this kid. And trying to turn him into something. They don't take claim for this kind of stuff anymore. They don't. Because it works against them. It works against their effect. Look at the effect. The effect is America turns on itself. Look what happened with the thing with the Navy. What did the Navy do? The Navy turned on itself. Clear, undeniable proof in that particular case that there's something much more than just an accident going on there. But what happened? The Navy issues a giant 72-page report basically blaming its own sailors and its own training and its own this, that, and the other. And this is what America is doing here. The exact same thing. It's a tactic to make the victim blame themselves. So, anyway, thank you so much for the support. I really appreciate it. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you next time.